Okay. All right. So thank you all so much and welcome to Thought Leader Thursday. I'm Reverend Dr. PJ Stanley, and we have an outstanding guest this morning. And so I'll get to introducing her in just a moment. But we're going to go ahead and start with an opening prayer. Bill, I don't know, would you mind doing that this morning for us? You do it so well.
The opening prayer thing?
Yeah.
I'd love to. That's one of my favorite things to
I
do.
know it is.
Yeah, yeah. So whatever it is that you do to shake off the impressions that the world around you has made so you can open up to the awareness of the infinite, go ahead and do that now. So we can turn our attention, our awareness to that infinite creative power, that one divine presence, that one love that shares itself as everything, everyone, everywhere. That's all there is. And so, knowing that that's all there is, I know that's right here, right now. That is what we are. That is what is unfolding today. God's love expressed in a bright, joyous, divine new way. The words, the ideas, the interchanges, all a blessing, all ways that the infinite is revealing itself as joyous, sweet perfection during this Thought Leader Thursday activity. And I'm so grateful for it, for all the good that's already unfolding and continues to do so. I'm grateful for the blessing. And so I speak this word of blessing into the creative law that creates everything, and it says yes. And so it is.
And so it is. Yes, yes. So welcome everybody, and thank you so much for being here. This is Thought Leader Thursday, and we do this the final Thursday of every month. I think there might be one in December that's actually going to happen on Christmas Day or something. We'll move that around. But anyway, you can normally trust that's going to be on the final Thursday of every month. So thank you all so much for being here. We have a great lineup through July and through the rest of the year, I'm sure. So we get excited. If you guys have someone that you know that you want to have speak, an author or someone who you love what they do, please go ahead and email me or let Bill know, and we'll get in touch with them and see what they're talking about. So we are so proud and pleased to have Reverend Sonja up here with us today. And so let me just go ahead and do some introductions. And what we normally do is that we just kind of get started. She'll be talking, and then we'll open it for some questions. And so we'll just let her go ahead and share some of the things that she's going to do. Her talk today is Who's Loving You? And I'm excited to hear how she's going to bring that. That's like a song that I was raised with, and it's probably not what she's talking about, but uh, I'm pretty sure it's from a whole different direction. But she graduated from the University of Georgia with her BA in administration, and she was a Baptist just like I was before she was introduced to New Thought and just finally found herself home. She studied under Reverend Dr. Barbara King of Atlanta and Dr. Kennedy Shultz of the Atlanta Church as well, of religious science, which is now a CSL. She has her Master's of Divinity and a Master's of Conscious Studies degree from the Holmes Institute. She has served as the president of the Unity Ministerial Student Association and continues as their student minister liaison. She is an accredited financial counselor, which I'm probably going to talk to you about that. And she serves as a regional supervisor for a military contractor to oversee and coordinate 20 financial counselors in support of our troops in 10 states for active duty reserves and National Guard. I didn't know this about you, Sonja, so that was interesting. I love all things military and very much support the military, so I really want to talk to you about that as well. Anyway, she serves as the minister of the Unity Center of Tuscaloosa Study Group and as a remote staff minister with Unity Village Chapel in Missouri, where she teaches virtually and facilitates the Sunday virtual service on the fifth Sundays of every month. She has visited 22 countries in Africa and Asia and Europe. So please join me in welcoming Reverend Dr. Sonja Mathis.
Thank you so much, PJ.
Thank you, darling. Thank you.
Reverend Dr. PJ for that. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, all my new Anton friends. I'm so proud to be a part. I'm so happy to be a part of this organization. So I got to do a shout out to Martha Creek.
Yes.
The origins of so many good things. So yes, she is. Yes, she is. She did send me blessings that she wouldn't be able to be here today with us, but she's still here. She's still here with us. I don't care where she is. She's still here with us. So like PJ was just saying, the talk title is Who's Loving You? And one of the challenges I have is when people ask me for talk titles way out, I'm always like, I don't know what I'm going to be feeling like that day.
Hello.
And so, but PJ assured me, she said, you can change it. We're open. So I said, okay, we'll take the lead. We'll take the lead. So but it does come back. I think I was listening to that Michael Jackson song. That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
You know, I walk around with my head hanging down and I'm wondering who's loving you. And so
Yes.
the beginnings of that is typically the answer is we say, oh, my spouse, my children, my job, my fans. If you have a Facebook page, or you know, my Instagram page, we say this is who's loving us. But I am going to take it in a different direction, because the answer to the question should really be me. Who's loving you? Me.
Yes.
I'm loving me. I'm
Yeah.
loving me.
Yes.
And I was thinking about how, and I think we've all gone through this, those of us who tend to be very competitive and type A personalities, it was a badge of honor to say, I hadn't slept the way I should. I don't eat on a regular basis. It was like this was a badge of I'm a hard worker. I'm a hard worker. But it took me a while. And after I came in a new thought, I started thinking, with someone who really cares about themselves and love themselves, would they abuse themselves like that?
Right.
Is that love? Is that care? Is that concern? If someone were to come to you and say, I don't sleep regularly, some days I forget to eat, you would probably say, that's awful. You shouldn't stop that. Stop that right now. But when we do it to ourselves, we go, oh, that means I'm strong. I'm strong. You know, I can take it. I can take it. The talks is going to take a little detour, because last year, I made a new friend at this group, this spiritual group I attend, and she reached out to me on Zoom and said, can I get your number? Can we start talking? Because I did a prayer for the group and she liked it. Turned out when I started talking to her, she had stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
Mm.
And so we immediately became friends. And I said, this is a lesson that the universe is teaching me, that I get to correspond with her, talk with her. She was very open. She went into her childhood because she wanted to kind of explore, how did she get here?
Mm-hmm.
What happened? And she's not New Thought. This was a down home Baptist woman that really wanted to explore on a level she never really had done before. And so one day we were talking and I said, what do you think? How do you think you got here? She said, well, one of the things I'll tell you, Sonja, is I never learned to say no. I said yes to everything. I said yes to the family members who were using me. I said yes to everybody at work that wanted me to help with the project. I gave everybody the money who didn't pay me back. And she said, and what happened is I became angry and didn't know how to deal with it and didn't want to admit it, because there was nowhere in the teaching to admit, I'm just mad. I'm
Yeah.
just mad. Now, any of you who studied Louise Hay know she says that, you know, you can heal your life. She talks about how she goes through all the major illnesses and how they all tie back to anger and fear, which are the same thing. You know, they're the same thing. And so it came up that she just said that I'm angry. And she was at a place in her life where she's like, I don't even know what to do about this. I have this diagnosis now. I'm not ready to leave here. And it just brought me back to the idea of she didn't practice the love she wanted for herself. And now she found herself in this position. So yesterday I got a text that she was in hospice. This woman is just 58 years old.
Wow.
She's in hospice. And so I called her on the phone and she was so weak. Her husband took the phone and he started talking to me. And he said her kidneys have shut down. They're waiting for all the organs to shut down. We're not even going to drive back because they're in Atlanta. I'm in Atlanta right now. We're not even going to bother to drive back to where we're from. She decided just to stay here and transition. And so I said, well, can I come on Saturday? He said, she won't be here Saturday. You got to come now. So I got myself together, and last night after work, I drove to the hospice and I sat there for about 3 hours. And I said, well, this is definitely going to change the talk, because I had a different talk. But sitting there, she had surrendered. I could tell there was surrender in the room and the peace in the room. And after all the hard battles, she had finally learned to love herself. I could feel the peace. I prayed with her. I sat with her husband. And I said, this was the peace, but this wasn't the way she wanted it. You know, and that's why in this new thought practice, wanting to have more say about what quote unquote God's will is. Because we know that God's will aligns with our will. I will. So what I decided to do for this talk today is I'm going to take it back to, I thought it tied in well with Buddhist practices.
Okay.
And the four well, we're going to talk about the eightfold way, but the four noble way is, the first part of it is dukkha, which is suffering. There will be suffering. Two comes from the craving of trying to attach ourselves to happiness that comes from things that are impermanent. And that we do a lot. And now we can bring in the Bible, because I am Southern. We can bring in the Bible that don't build your house on sand. You build your house on solid ground. But a lot of times we do build our house on impermanent things, you know, and even a car, I mean, it immediately starts to depreciate. But that's also built on the idea of things that decay. Most things are built to decay. So we build our house on solid ground. And in the old Black church, they used to say, hold to God's unchanging, steady hand. Nothing about God changes. And then the next way is, the third noble truth is, there is a way out. There is a way out, but we have to be open. But so many times we want to see it. I need this way out. My way out needs to be a man that's 6'4" with you know, $1 million bank account. We've determined, and then you miss your blessing when it doesn't come into that package that you decide. But there's a way out of suffering. And the fourth one is the way forward. And the way forward is the noble eightfold way. And that comes into right view, right intention, right speech, right conduct, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Some of that ties into not only the some of the unity in the CSO ways, but the 5-step prayer process and unity, you know, right concentration, right mindfulness, but more importantly, it speaks to a practice. Just having a practice, and keeping our mind aligned with the higher thought, you know, and understanding that when we say God's will, it's not, you know, a lot of us were brought up in teachings where God's will was always something we wanted nothing to do with. God doesn't know what I need. God didn't. I remember Terry McMillan said in the interview, she said, it's not that I don't trust God. I just don't trust his judgment.
Sorry.
I thought that was so funny. But it's true. You know, it's true. And what does it say? The truth will set you free. It will set you free. And there's a scripture, and I think it's in the book of Mark, and it says, do unto others as you will have done unto you. If you just sit with that for a minute, that's a whole lot right there. And so when people say things to us, they say that, you know, what we term as ugly things, and we go, how could he or she say that to me? And step back just a moment and just for a moment ask yourself, if they'll speak that way to me, what are they saying to themselves? You know, because you can't give more than you have. You can't give anything you don't have. And so who's loving you? Who's loving them? And sometimes you got to love yourself enough to see beyond the words they throw, the action, because the actions come back. You know, people say, well, they seem like they're living good. They just bought a Mercedes or a $500,000 home. These things that they are based on what? Impermanence.
Yes.
The house values, we were talking about home real estate before the call started. Home values go up and down, up and down. I'm a financial counselor, and one of the things I teach my service members when we're looking at the earnings of prices on stocks, or more like mutual funds. And I say, look at the price of this mutual fund. It changes every day, every day. So you don't want to base your understanding or your planning on something that changes every day. That's just to give you a guide as to how that works. You want to look at, okay, what are they, you know, what other companies make up this mutual fund? And I don't want to turn this into a financial class, but the whole idea of keeping the main thing the main thing. So whatever's changing, understanding is changing natures, but not building your house on that thing. So anyway, the dukkha, the suffering, comes from things that decay or depreciate. That's what we just talked about. Painful mental and emotional experiences, which we stay attached to, letting that narrative just keep going over and over in our head, even though we're moved beyond that and we're making new narratives and new recordings, staying attached to things people told us long time ago that really have any, we've already released that unpleasantness and not getting what we want. All right. So when we talk about the idea of affliction, because suffering is a strong word. That's a strong word. And in New Thought, we talk about the idea of looking for the good in everything.
Yes.
Everything has a lesson. And sometimes when I was sitting with my friend yesterday, Jenny, praying with her, just sitting there, because I was just taking it all in because I'm looking for, even though I don't know her lesson, I'm involved in this. What's the lesson for me?
Right.
And I think sometimes what we don't like to admit is, especially when we're on a life journey dealing with a dis-ease or a disharmony, sometimes the healing is the transition. Journey complete. You sometimes you've learned all you needed and you're bringing an end to that journey, or you serve as an example for others. I can tell her husband has learned so much and his strength has been edified, helping her through this experience. And so to understand that sometimes what we're experiencing is not always just about our experience. All right, so I want to spend a little time on, the Buddhists also talk about the idea of 3 marks of existence. One is impermanence, one is suffering, and one is the non-self. The non-self. I really like that idea, the idea that I am Sonja, but then I'm not Sonja. And so anything that's tied to the impermanence of what my experience is as Sonja, then that's not who I am. There's a bigger idea, a much bigger idea of why I'm here, why I was created, what my mission and purpose is. But all this can look so real. You was like, I remember when I used to be in the ACIM, of course, in Miracles, we had a lady in the class, and she used to always say, whenever something came up, it's an illusion. It's not real. It's not real. And so we all understood, she was a little interesting. So we would just all sit there and just, we would just go, okay, let's wait for this too shall pass, we'll wait. But when new people would come and they were expressing something that happened to them and that was, in their mind bad. And she said, that's not real. That was an illusion. And so then they would get offended and go, no, I really did get fired from my job, or my house really did burn down. And she go, no, that's just an illusion. We go, oh God, here we go. We're going to lose another new member, and then we would try to jump in, but she was so fixated on it was all an illusion. And it is, but we still have to have respect for what other people deem in their journey right now. They're not there and they don't have anywhere to sleep today. But so much of this impermanence is not real. And we know in mind, we create, this is more Hindu, but the idea of there's always a cycle of creation, maintenance, and destruction. Creation, maintenance, and destruction. And so when we can look at these things as a lesson, like this has come to teach me something, I'm not attached to it, I'll release, the phrase is, I'll chew the meat and spit out the bones, then you're in a better place for that. You're in a better place for that. But that is a process. 2 Corinthians 4:17-18 talks about a momentary light affliction for an eternal weight of glory.
Mm-hmm.
Just a momentary light affliction. And a lot of times what we see, and a lot of times is when you go back and look at it, I can see some things in my life that seem so much, like, oh my God, I'll never get through this. Why is this happening to me? And then, someday, or as Charles Fillmore in the Unity movement says, in the unfoldment of time. Mm. In the unfoldment of time, you begin to see it wasn't as bad as you thought. You moved through it much better than you did. And even if you didn't move through it the way you wanted to, whenever you learn, you win. Whenever you learn, you win. Even if you didn't get what you thought you wanted out of it, you got something out of it. And that's something that, and whatever it is, it was something that you needed for your life's growth, your life's lesson. And you get to take that forward and be and continue to create and build upon that. So I do want to spend just a little bit more time on the non-self. That's what I was talking about. The idea that I am so much more than what you see, or even what I see. I love, and I brought it up in one of the Anton meetings, Thomas Troy says, principle is not bound by precedent.
Mm.
And when you truly understand that no matter what circumstances you've been brought into, or you were born into, or you were, I don't know, scapegoated into, that this does not define you. Diagnoses do not define us. Social, political, economic states do not define us, because at any moment with a shift in thought, we can change that. We can move that. That's impermanence. That's impermanence. And the only thing that is permanent is our soul. That's what continues. That's what the only thing that continues going forward, forging the path for us. So when we take things like the eightfold path, and we can continue to have the practice of seeing things in the right view, having the right intention. Wayne Dyer used to do a lot of talk about I think his book was called, The Power of Intention, and how intention can change the world. And there's also that phrase we heard, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So intentions can take you to the next level, and it can take you to a place, the lower level, the place perhaps that you don't want to be. But understanding that wherever you are, that is where you're supposed to be. You don't have to stay there. Iyanla Vanzant wrote a book, and this was a pretty some years ago, but it was called In the Meantime. Mm-hmm. And she talked about, you had basement moments, first floor moments, second floor moments, and then there were attic moments. And she said, I wish I could say I lived in the attic. She says, but a lot of times I'm circulating around the first or the second floor. She said, sometimes I go to the basement. And she said, there's nothing wrong with going to the basement. Just don't live there. Don't start getting mail there. Mail starts showing up at the basement for you. You've been there too long. She said, do what you need to do to raise that vibration, to get back on at least the first floor. But also accepting that you're not always going to have attic moments. It's hard to live there too. We just celebrated Easter, and one of the little informal classes I take, when Jesus was hollering out, why have you forsaken me? And somebody asked about that, what was Jesus going through? I said, well, Jesus was human as well as he was divine. He was probably moving from the basement to the first, to the second, to the attic, back to the second, to the first, to the basement, and then remembering who and whose he was. And then he says, and what did he say? Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Mm-hmm. That's an attic moment. But at ATTIC, not ADDICT, but then we could say an addict moment too, that he's addicted to the idea of the higher thought, the highest thought that propels. And we need to give ourselves that grace as well. You're not always, I have a thing I say, sometimes people are going to say things, they're going to trigger you, they're going to push you, and you're going to use those two words that you probably shouldn't, and they're not thank you. Thank you. Yes. That's right. And then if you make the mistake of saying it around one of the elders in the family, well, you might have to, if you're in my family, you got to call and make some apologies. I'm sorry I said that, but make your apologies and move on. Don't be defined by that moment. That moment, like we just said, this too shall pass. Our lessons are coming and growing. There's an impermanence, and in that impermanence, we're fluid. We're moving. And when we allow ourselves this grace, that's how we love ourselves. Mm. That's how we love ourselves. There is in Matthew, I think it's not Matthew. I can't think of, but it's the scripture that says, "Be ye perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect." And that's actually a mistranslation, because there's no, in the book I was studying from, there's no word for perfect in the Aramaic. They said what the original translation was be whole as your Father in heaven is whole. And what whole means is understanding and accepting what you define as the light and the dark, the wholeness of yourself. That's the awareness. letting the light shine everywhere. And maybe you don't like when you say words other than thank you, but the awareness, how powerful it is to know that you may go there. Some people don't even know they go there, and then they have these huge outbursts. And when people try to tell them later, oh my goodness, you were just saying this and that, and they look, no, I didn't say that. And you're like, oh my goodness, that's just kind of scary. We got to start videotaping everything they do just so we can provide proof that they really do cut up on us, but just the idea that, there's that part of you that can go there. I think that's true love. That's love for oneself. And when we have that love for ourselves, what I love about loving ourselves, we give the people around us an opening, a portal. I'm being myself. Guess what you get to be? Yourself. You get to be yourself. And then we're creating authenticity, transparency, where people aren't afraid to show who they are, grow into who they want to be. And I remember when I pastored a church actively, one of the things I used to love to do, because when you grow up Baptist, they love to beat you over the head with, you got to give money. You got to come up here, and they would make you parade you around and give the money. And so when I pastored a church, I said, I'm going to try this differently. And I never did any of that. My rationale was, if you give people the ability to feel safe and grow, they'll give. They'll give. And so I would see people come in and they wouldn't give anything. And then they would turn it to $5 and then $20 and then $50 and a couple of hundred. And all I did was stand up there and create a sacred space where they could learn to love themselves and want to be here and be a part of this. Now, the thing is, and this was difficult about being a pastor, was you have to respect their journey, because they're elevating. And one day they're probably going to come to you and go, I have enjoyed these last 5 to 10 years, but I want to go in a different direction. Because the way I grew up, that was failure. What? Don't leave. You can't go. We got to stay till we die, And then and so I had to step back and remind myself, okay, I got to stay aligned with the higher good. And what happens is, when one leaves because it's time for them to go, guess what happens?
Someone else.
Somebody else comes in. It's just a flow, and everybody comes through getting what they need. And when you're not trying to hold people down or make them feel a certain type of way, everybody gets full. The growth happens. Everything happens. Everything that we need to be prepared or whatever we need to do, it happens. And it's a beautiful thing, but you have to trust a process greater than what you see in the outer appearances, the external things.
Exactly.
And exactly. And so it all comes from here. Jesus taught us that authority comes from within. The power is exerted from the authority from within. But a lot of us think power starts from the outside. Power is the effect. The authority is the cause. And Jesus said often, with all authority given to me in heaven and earth. So we'll let that authority come up in us, then we can exert all kind of power in the external atmosphere. And people see that and they want to be a part of that. One of the issues that the church, period, I don't care if you're New Thought or whatever, one of the issues that the church is having, period, is it's still a business. But the part we miss in our business, if you go to the Apple store, what do they show you? They show you all their phones, their devices. They show out all their devices. The church has missed the part that what's the product of the church or a spiritual center? It's people. What do we put? That's what's going on in the world. That peace, that energy, that alignment, and we forget that. And so the churches, the people outside who may want to come in and look at us going, well, what makes you different? And we want to say, well, I got this car. No, those are byproducts of understanding, loving yourself and whose you are. When you get properly aligned, it always amazes me when people put so much time into getting a car. How do you believe in omnipotent, omniscient, omni-active force and then say, but I can't get a car? Something that decays and depreciates. We're going to compare something that is eternal and impermanent, and we're going to put it up against something that loses 40% value the minute you drive it off the lot. Make it make sense. make the numbers work. So that's where we want to be. We want to start with loving. We don't want to have our head down. We want to do what we need to do to be attached to the permanent part, not the impermanent. I'll end with this. Jana Van Zetten said the difference between happiness and joy. Happiness comes and goes. It's based on whether or not the market is up, the market is down, whether or not they're hiring, not hiring. So you don't want your idea of yourself to be attached to something that's conditional. Joy is something that comes, it's an eternal thing that's not based on what happens yesterday or today. It's an inner understanding that is not moved by outer circumstances.
Yeah.
Hebrews 11:1 says, faith is the evidence of things hoped for, the substance of things not seen. Hebrews 11:3 says, all the things you see comes from something you cannot see.
Yes.
The Bible talks constantly about bringing things out of the invisible into the visible. And so when we love ourselves first, I don't care what our circumstances look like, people go, well, how did they pull all that off? How did she finish that degree? How did they pay off the house? You're pulling things from the invisible into the visible, which is biblical, it's scriptural, and as well, it's in all the sacred texts. It really is. But the first part about pulling from the invisible is pulling that love for ourselves, which is always there. It's always there, but for everybody to see the appearance of, to be able to say, for us to be the example, just like Buddha and Jesus and Confucius and Abdul Baha'i, all the major religions, they were all moved as examples, and we are meant to do the same thing. Absolutely. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for this time. I look forward to our discussion. I'm honored.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Sonja. We're going to go ahead and open this up for questions and comments. I have like 2 pages worth of notes that I wrote down. It's just so much, and I know that everybody has some things they want to say and some questions they want to ask. So if you have any questions or anything you want to comment on, please raise your hand. You go down to the bottom of your screen where the heart is, and it says react. And you can see when you click on that, you'll see a hand go up. So go ahead and if you have some comments or some questions for Sonja, go ahead and do that. I'm gonna go ahead and start it off. Let's see. I don't even know how to. I said that, and I don't even see the hand. But anyway, I'm just gonna start like my hand was up. You talked about so many things, and I love it. And let me just see all my notes. Which ones did I want to talk about? I love that 4-way path that you talked about, and part of the thing that I find is the attachment that we seem to have to things. It's like once you get something, it's like it's spirit is just so amazing to me, and things come in so many different ways. But it's like once I thought it was just the human mind or whatever, but once you see something happening, oh, that's how you do it. It's this way. And then you want it to be this way every time, and it's not. It's always so. Can you speak to that a little bit about how, when you feel like, okay, this is how, if I want to get something to manifest, you just go down this path and that's how it works. And it's really not how I don't believe that's how it works. I think it works in different ways depending. And what does it depend on? So what thoughts do you have about that?
No, I think that's a very good point. And I think the thing that is immediately coming to me is staying open to signs, symbols, and warnings. Not warnings, wonders. Signs, symbols, and wonders. You'll meet someone. Like I met my friend with the stage 4. I wasn't looking for a friend, but she taught me so much. And just the idea when she reminded me, learn to say no, I have been practicing that more. And she brought this. So when people come into our sphere, it's easy to say, look, I don't have time for any more friends. I'm busy. I know one thing I used to say is, no, I'm not looking for friends. I'm trying to give some away. I used to say,
it's a little crowded in here.
It's crowded in here. Somebody's got to get out of here, and what probably needs to happen is some of those things just need to maybe fall to the back and let some new energy come in, and let that new energy, it's difficult to create, depending on what you're trying to create from the space you're in. Sometimes you got to take it up, and it does have to be different. If you keep doing the same thing and want it to be the same way, I doubt you're going to create the magnificence that you want.
Right.
But we have to be careful, even in new thought. Even in new thought, we can get attached too, because I think that's a part of that human nature. I just need this to work the same way every time. Human beings, we're creatures of comfort. And I think that's something we have to guard. I know I purposely joined a hiking group just so I could get out of, because I was not an outdoorsy person. And I went about the hiking booth. I wanted to purposely put myself in a situation where I was dealing with my fears.
Yes.
Yeah, like, and so I remember one time the bridge was down. They were like, "We're gonna have to cross it on foot." And I was like, "What? Get in the water? I mean, what's in there?" And I did it. I got in the water. They had no idea. I almost went into cardiac arrest, but I did. I breathed through it.
Yes, yes. I love that. I love that point. I think one of the best ways to deal with fear is to face it, to step into it.
Yes.
I had a fear of flying, and I just made myself fly everywhere. I take long trips and all that until now I can comfort other people that are clearly afraid on the plane.
Exactly.
Because you just step into it. That's it. I love that point that you're making there. We have a question from William. Go ahead, William. Yeah, thank you.
I think you're muted. Yeah.
Yeah, you're muted, William. There you go.
Thank you very much. I'm loving this. It's awesome. I'd just like to know, Reverend, where do you go to church? Folks told me last week in one of my classes I was old school. I'm like, oh, okay. So I really appreciate what you bring, old school. I love your work with the Bible. I really appreciate that. And I'd just like to know where you go to church. So I might show up on Sunday.
I have to keep you updated through PJ. I actually was the pastor of Unity of Tuscaloosa for over 20 years. And when COVID hit, that's when because I was in a cycle, I was going, and when COVID hit and they told everybody to go home. And when I went home and got into bed, I didn't realize how tired I was. And so, because 20 years is a long time, and I did it backwards. I got to tell you this little story, because I was still in my 20s at that point. We had a husband and wife team at Tuscaloosa, and they were having some issues. So they just quit. They left, and we didn't have a minister. And so I decided to go home and write a sermon. I still don't know what propelled me to do that. I didn't know what I was doing. And so I came to church that next Sunday, and I said, I have a sermon. And they said, "Oh, well, then you get up and you do your sermon." I wish I had recorded or something, because I would love to know what I said. And so anyway, they said, "If you want to keep doing the sermons, we'll keep coming." I said, "You serious?" And they kept coming. All right. So, but I thought Unity was going to send someone. So I was like, okay, I'm going to hold it together. And then when they send someone, I'll step down and I'll be a happy congregant again. That went on for 15 years before I figured out nobody was coming. I did that for 15 years. And then Spirit said, "You're waiting on yourself. You better go to school." So I went to school, but that was kind of backwards, because by the time I went to school, I had run a church for so long, I wasn't certain they could tell me what to do, but I kept my mouth shut. But anyway, I said all that to say, we Unity of Tuscaloosa will go back, but I want to explore a little bit more. I do a lot of guest speaking all over the nation now, and I'm enjoying that freedom. And so, but I'm coming up on my 5th year, and they're telling me it's time I got to come back in. So we'll see.
And where are you speaking this weekend, Sonja?
Right, Philly with Bill. That's right. Yes, yeah. And through Anton has really promoted me, gave me a platform. I will be going out on the West Coast later this year to do some speaking engagements. And so, yeah, I'm enjoying this part for right now.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. You did okay. So, Celeste, I see you putting a lot of stuff in the chat, but I don't know that she could see that until later because she's not.
Yeah.
So, anything you want to say, just go ahead and raise your hand up. But you said something about the truth will set you free. And I've loved that. I've heard it my whole life, and it will. But the first thing it's got, and a friend of mine told me this, and I thought it so resonated with me. This is the thing about truth. It will set you free, but first it'll piss you off.
That's right.
It just will. And so to to face it and to realize you've got some growing to do when you've just been trying to grow your whole life and been in New Thought or wherever. I came from a Baptist background like yourself, and then found what was really working for me was New Thought. But you just keep, I think, as you unfolding and becoming, how do you unfold and become without having to recognize some truths about yourself that need to be that really need to have a more universal truth about it, and you need to learn that. And that is, learning and growing is difficult. Speak to that about how you grow and face your truth.
Yeah, the phrase I like is being open to unlearn and then relearn, because that unlearning is very, very important. Most of us, I remember when I was a little girl, they told me I wasn't good at math, and I bought into that. And I remember when I got into financial services, working at New York Life, and I had my financial calculator, and I didn't even notice, but I was a little whiz on that thing. And I remember when somebody said, "Oh my God, you're so good with numbers." And it hit me, and I said, when did that happen? Because they told me I wasn't, and I believed it. But I am good with numbers. But going back to what you just said, I think when you're ready to love yourself, and that, like somebody just put something in here about Matt, be ye perfect. It's just an unfoldment of the wholeness, not for perfection. I think when you're in the space of I truly love myself, I'm moving to truly loving myself. I think when you see what you see as a shortcoming, or something that's a shortcoming, you go, oh, okay. I once heard a CSL minister say, you want to get to the place in your life that when the tide comes in, you go, oh, and when it goes out, you go, oh. But typically what happens is when it come in, everybody claps, and then when it goes out, they go, oh. And so that's the way they approach life. Oh, goodness. And then when it's not, when it appeared not good, instead of saying, oh, go, okay, what does this come to teach? Yes. What is this? Because I found in my life, the quicker I can get the lesson, the quicker it goes away. Whatever that is, I don't care for. Let's get the lesson. Let's get to understand. Let's move. I had a friend once tell me, I've never seen anybody run after the truth the way you do. I said, because I'm trying to get to the next part. I don't want to stay here. I don't want to stay here longer than I have to, So, but I think loving yourself gives you that sacred space where you're willing to accept the light and the dark, and then make it light.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that helps me accept if you want to call it the dark and the light, but because I know that this too shall pass, and that there's an experience that's trying to shape me. I think everything shapes me into where I'm supposed to be, or what it is I need to know, and that I have the capacity to expand. I have the capacity. And so I trust in that capacity, because we believe that we are individualized expressions of the one love. So if that's the case, we have the capacity to learn, to grow, to stretch. But the human nature is to get into this comfort zone of what and so I love the whole thing about the unlearning.
We like formulas. One of the things I learned in a class I took last summer, I talked about it when I spoke at Unity of San Antonio in Texas. It was called teleology, and it's a philosophical concept, and it goes way back to the pre-Socratic Greek philosophers. But basically, it's about not concerning yourself with why am I going through this? What am I to learn from it?
Exactly.
What has this come to teach? Right. So, and when you come at it from that point of view, not that you're excited, but it takes away the anxiousness and the fear, because you're like, okay, as soon as I get my lesson, I'm gonna have a better understanding of all of this. Exactly. And so you'll still end up at the end, because the end is God's love. But the journey won't have been so stressful, because your question isn't, why is this happening to me? What has this come to teach me, so that when I get to that end, I have a much better understanding.
Exactly.
I'm grateful.
And
Mhm.
I think that's part of the whole understanding that you are loved. You
Yeah.
are loved and loved.
Right.
And so there's nothing coming to hurt you. There's nothing coming
No.
to hurt you. It's coming to share with you and take you to the next level. So yeah,
It
just
shapes you. Like you said earlier, it shapes you.
it really does. And
Mhm.
the questions that I'm always asking is, what's mine to do?
Yeah.
And and that's what I'm asking Spirit, what's mine? And what I'm asking myself is, what are you upset about? Because you know you're loved, and you know this can only take you to someplace greater. So what are you upset about? Just relax and let it unfold. And
Right.
let God just explain to you. You have a question here by Charlene. You want to unmute yourself, Charlene? Is that how you say your name, Charlene?
Yes, it
Okay.
is. Thank you very much. Yes, yes. Good to see you, Reverend Sonja. I always love hearing you speak. So when I saw you were going to be speaking to them, like, oh, I'm there. So good to see you, my friend.
You too. Thank
Um,
you.
My question is, having been raised in, Baptist teaching and then finding your way to New Thought, how was that transition for you? And how does your current view of life and New Thought, how is it still uh, uh, I want to say even fueled by your early childhood teachings and perspective on religion and faith and life? Because that's always something that comes up for me. So I'd love to hear your perspective.
I think being in Atlanta, I think as William just said, the biblical part, Barbara King used a lot of Bible and she infused it with New Thought. So that was that bridge that I was able to cross because I understood the biblical part. And then from there, I was able to move more. Not move beyond, but that's how I got into Atlanta Church of Religious Science, because I had created, Barbara King helped create that comfort level with the Bible expanding into other teachings. I've studied all the major religions, and from where I sit, I see many more similarities than I see differences. To me, they all come together, and I keep studying because I'm always looking for the parallels. And I think sometimes when I take a class with a Buddhist instructor or something, I think sometimes they don't quite understand that when I'm pulling in the Bible and I'm pulling in the high, when I'm trying to make it all come together, because that's how it makes sense to me. If I can make all things come together. What I appreciate about the Bible and probably about the Baptist is I love the passion and the fuel. Now, of course, I don't like everything they're saying in there, but I like the fact that I just feel like there's something that when you're trying to manifest, there's something to be said for the passion that fuels that manifestation. Along the words are good, I mean, and you got to be speaking the right words. But I think that passion that comes from the Baptists, that's that part. Because I had somebody, I think they were trying to be funny, and they said, "You pray like a Baptist." And I was like, well, I think that's pretty good. I think that's okay. They said, yeah, you're using the New Thought words, but and I thought about, yeah, you meant that for bad.
Yes.
But I'm going to use it for good, And
Right.
so, but no, I just feel like they have, because people tend to be born and they stay in a area. I don't think people on the whole understand how much it's all connected.
That part. Yes.
Yes, they really don't. And then and when you try to explain that to them, they spent so much time just over here. They have a hard time understanding how truly connected and similar the sacred texts and the teachings are.
Exactly. And one of the things I'm just going to add to that just a little bit, because one of the things that I know that helps me a lot, that I love language. And there's no way you're in the US and you're speaking English, and they're in Germany and they're speaking German, and you're in Japan and they're speaking Japanese. So all the different religions are just, to me, language. It's just the language that they understand in different parts of the world, but the sacred text, the sacred truths are all through every religion. The truth is there. And so
Right.
all you have to do is understand how they're saying it, but they are saying what we already know. They know that there's one. They know that they know all kinds of things. So we don't have to be concerned with what the Baptists or the Hindus or whatever are doing. What I love is to try to understand, because my sister is a Baptist still, and and she's a minister, and her husband's a minister, and so we have great conversations about what things mean. And so we honor each other's path. It's that we believe in the same God. We just take a different path towards it. So that's you know?
And I think we are moving. I actually spoke, because this is a challenge to myself. In 2023, I spoke in 2 Baptist churches.
Yeah.
And I'm not lying, I stayed ready. I had my keys in my hand and I wore flat shoes, and they were going to run me out and comfort me. And they didn't. And I got a standing ovation in a Baptist church. And I had an elderly Black man come up to me, and he says, because the way he was walking, I said, "Oh, here it goes. I'm about to get my whipping." And so, and he says, "I really enjoyed that." He said, "Because he said, you can get out there, you go way out there, but he said, but you bring it back to the Bible, make it make sense." He said, "So I trusted you. I didn't mind where you were taking me, because you were going to bring it back to something I could understand." And he said, "I truly learned something today, and I wasn't afraid of anything I learned." And I said, "Sir, you don't know how you blessed me." You know?
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful, Sonja. Sister Les has her hand up. We're going to go ahead and get a question for her, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap it on up.
Okay, I just wanted to say that most people, when they're studying the Science of Mind textbook, even if they're taking all the classes and stuff, they never really get into part 5. And part 5 of the textbook is really the book, The Bible in Light of Religious Science, transposed into the textbook. And it's teachings from the New Testament. And he goes well into that, and enough to keep any Baptist happy, I would think. Not having a Baptist background, because I'm one of those strange people that grew up in religious science. So I don't have an opposing viewpoint to look at it. But that's true. And I also wanted to share with you my affirmation that I use for anybody that's not necessarily looking for love, but maybe looking for a job. And it is, "I am spiritually employed."
Oh, I like that. I'm spiritually employed.
And I used to say that 20, 25 times a day. And you will notice that your employment status is so much gentler to you, whether you have a job or you just get money coming in.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Yes, like I said, no matter the presentation, it serves. Yes, thank you. I like
Thank you
it
so much. Thank you so much, Sister Les, for your comments. We're about to wrap it up. Sonja, what are some last words you might want to share with us? We want to leave us with.
I just want to thank you all. I'm going to encourage you to stay open, not just read the books, and because there's a lot of good things we can read. Let's truly make it a practice, because the things we are teaching not only can and will affect change in our life, we can change the world. Yeah. We really can. So I encourage you to be an emissary of that. I thank you. You all have blessed me. Thank you so much for the exchange.
You have blessed us. And I having seen you at Anton, I got to have her here, because I just love how you just speak truth and just speak it in your own way, and bring your whole personality and fun self to it. So I really like that. Let's see, we've got some comments here.
Oh yeah, I've saved this whole chat. I'll come read this.
Okay.
I'm not doing so well. This will make me feel better.
Exactly. All right, Bill, what do we got coming up for Anton? And what's going on?
Goodness, let me see if I can do this in reverse chronological order. Of course, the big thing coming up in October is the annual Anton retreat at Unity Village. It's going to be a week from it's the first full week in October. I think it's the 6th to the 11th this year, or some such. It is going to be a spectacular event. We're in the Goppert Event Center for the first time. We're going to be announcing a few things coming up that you can look for a little bit in the newsletter that's coming out for May, but the full lineup of speakers will be released before the June newsletter. It is a spectacular lineup. It's just getting finalized now. That is going to be wonderful. Music director is Ricky Byers. We already know that that's going to be going on. You can register at the Anton website, antn.org, and early bird pricing is still available. You can also join and become a member of Anton and get the early bird members only pricing if you really want to get a bargain. Plus, of course, who doesn't want to be a member of Anton? Other stuff that's, coming up at Thought Leader Thursday next month, speaking of Unity Village, is going to be Denise Griffin, who's going to be talking about coming home to Unity Village, and she has some expertise about that. Also coming up There's an annual, or sorry, a monthly call to prayer, which is the second Tuesday of the month. Information on that is also on the website. This Sunday is going to be another of our gatherings, supportive gatherings, to basically get together for people who are just dealing with the juxtaposition between what's going on in the world around us and what's going on with us as New Thought people, to get together to group of people to share what's going on for you and be supportive and present. And that's Sunday afternoon, Pacific time, evening, Eastern time. Again, you can register on the website and take part in that. And there are a half a dozen facilitators. We did this a month ago, and it was really very powerful. We get together, talk about some stuff, usually read a passage from some literature about dealing with these challenging times. And I like it to be at least 100 years old because there have been challenging times going on for quite a while, and puts it into perspective. And then we go into breakout rooms, and it was so uplifting at the end of the last session. We asked people, show of hands who wants to do this again, and everybody raised their hand. So here we go, and you're eligible to register for that, and we'll see you there. And again, a shout out to Sonja Mathis. Great presentation today, and she's going to be at New Thought Philadelphia, which is my center, this week. You can find information about that at newthoughtphilly.org. And all right, that's the end of my shameless self-promotion.
And I want to say one more thing. I got to give a shout out to my ministerial classmate, James Tierney. Hi, James.
Good to see you again.
Yes, good to see you as well. Thank you.
So I want to encourage everyone, we've got a few more minutes, and I just want to encourage everyone to check out the website, because Bill has just done a great job of listing everything that we do. Anything you want to know about what we're doing and what's coming up is on the website. We have a newsletter that comes out. Hopefully that you get it at in your mailbox. And I don't know how you sign up for that if it's not, but I'm pretty sure it's on the website somewhere.
You sign up for anything on the website, you'll get the newsletter, and the next one's coming out on the 1st of May.
Yeah, exactly. We have a lot of wonderful speakers coming up on Thought Leader Thursday. I think DeShutter is coming back, and he's going to be doing some actual AI information. So he'll make some recommendations about how we use it as ministers to help us with our talks, to help us with a number of things. I'm exploring it myself a lot, and it is actually shocking what you can get back. But that's actually you. It's not it doing things. It's actually it can only respond to what you put in it. And so it really just it works really well. So I'm excited about having him on. We have another person that's coming on and going to be talking about how to make money traveling. And so it's just some great things going on. And of course we have Mary Morrissey. I think she's coming in July to speak. And so we're just having some wonderful discussions and some wonderful people coming to Thought Leader Thursday. Again, if you have some thoughts about who you'd like to see here, just go ahead and email me. You can just say revdocpj@gmail.com is the easiest way to go. And it's PJAE, not just PJ. Revdocpj@gmail. You can just forward some information to me. We have so many people in Anton that somebody knows somebody. So if you have someone that you want to come, I may not know them personally, but I'll put it out there and it'll come back. You know how the universe is. So if we say we want something, just put it out there and it comes back, and we just confidently expect that to happen. So go ahead and give me a email or a text and let me know what you want to see happen here. Celeste, you have another comment?
I just wanted to say Reverend Bill forgot to mention his own meditation on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Did you mention it and I not hear it?
No, I forgot to mention that. It's every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern time. We do the Anton version of the daily meditations, 15 minutes. You get a quick hit, and there's actually a little time to spend getting together and communing with the group. And we have somebody who plays the crystal bowl for us on Wednesdays as well.
Beautiful. And certainly some of the things that are coming up for our retreat at Anton, he talked about the Goppert Center, which is a big deal. He kind of, said it really quickly, but it is a huge deal. And we're not the first group to be in there, but it's our first time being there. And it's just going to be a fabulous thing. You have something to say, Bill?
Yeah, we've been in the hotel conference room, maximum capacity about 120, 125 people. And the Goppert Center really gives us a lot more room to expand and some elbow room. There's going to be an open to the public event. Again, more details about that coming, but it's an opportunity for us to really get some flash and sizzle going.
Yeah, It really is. And it's just, I'm just excited about it. And we've got great speakers, as we always do, great power speakers, power talk speakers. It's just, if you haven't gone, I just highly recommend you to go. And if you have gone, you already know how wonderful it is. So I look forward to seeing you all there. So I think that is all we have to say. If anybody has any last comment, we're going to go ahead and say goodnight. Thank you guys so much for being here. Right. Beautiful. Thank you all.
You're right.